What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. My name is Ash. Here's today's comic. As always, I'm joined by Stan the Man and his trusty sidekick, Forky, always keeping us filled with a nice, refreshing drink. The music you hear in the background is the legendary soundtrack for the film Backdraft by Ron Howard, and music composed by the legendary Hans Zimmer. It's one of my all-time favorite musical pieces. Back in the day in the 90s, it was like the go-to soundtrack I listened to for most anything that was a heroic type. I listened to so many comics, read books for that. These days, there's a lot better choice, or not better choice, I'm sorry, a diverse choice of musical offerings to have. But I thought that would go really well with Daredevil, and it did. This is Daredevil number 2 by Chip Zdarsky. And Mark Cicchetto, I think is his name. These books were donated by our friend Sergeant Batts. Thank you, Sergeant Batts. He donated Daredevils 1, 2, and 3 to me, and I promised him I would do a review. I didn't review for number 1, but I kind of slacked off on my reviews for 2 and 3. So I just read 2 and 3 back to back, and wow, let's get to it. So we start off here, and wow, Cicchetto was kind of channeling a little bit of John Romita Jr., late 90s. If you ever read The Man Without Fear by Frank Miller, if you are not really a Daredevil person, and you're just like, oh, Daredevil seems like maybe okay, if you're seeing these reviews and you're thinking maybe, go find that trade, or you could probably even get the miniseries. I don't think it ever went up in crazy value or anything. The Man Without Fear by Frank Miller. It is the definitive starting place for Daredevil. Now you might know some of the background. You've watched the TV show or whatever. It's been covered before, so it may feel a little like, oh, you kind of know the story, but I promise you, you don't. And I promise you, you've never seen his story done better. Illustrated by John Romita Jr. at his absolute prime, I believe. It is a phenomenal story. And the great thing about it is it's still not even the best Daredevil story. Frank Miller's Born Again story that he did when he was actually doing the ongoing Daredevil series, which is The Fall of Daredevil, was, oh man, it's an all-time comics masterpiece. But that's not the story you want to jump in on unless you're already a Daredevil fan. Man Without Fear. Anyways, Chip Zdarsky is, wow. He's not Frank Miller, but is he channeling his inner Frank Miller? I think so. He's doing it in such a fashion that he's not trying to be Frank Miller. He's still being Chip, but he's writing the character, and no one has ever done Daredevil better than Frank Miller. It is the definitive. You can argue, some people can argue that Batman, has been done better. Like, whatever. Fight me on this one. Daredevil, Frank Miller, they're synonymous. No one's done it better. No one probably ever will. But I think Zdarsky's using that as a building block and saying, this is what the Daredevil character is, and I'm going to write that character. I'm not going to write me into the book like a lot of these amateur pros do these days. So we get off on a boxing scene, and these cops walk in. Hey, Fred, who's the new guy? On the bag, he's my partner, Cole, transferred in from Chi-Town. Phew, he's huge. Single? Straight? I got a cousin who might... What's this? Heterosexuality? No. In Marvel Comics? Sorry. Yeah, calm down. I don't think this guy's all that social. Been working around the clock since he got here, making me look bad. Not really that hard. Har. What are you guys working on? What? You didn't hear? We're going after New York's most wanted killer. Baff, he's hitting the bag. No Fear, Part 2. Chip Zdarsky, Marco Cicchetto, not Mark. And then Sonny Go, I believe is how you pronounce that, doing the colors. Here's all the big wigs that like to get their names in the credits. They're actually hurting comics more than they're helping, but whatever. So we see Foggy, scene with Foggy, and we get this inner monologue. And I really like when writers do this. So much of modern comics is just straight dialogue. They're trying to write it like it's a movie or a TV screenplay. In which case, when you watch movies or TV, right, you don't ever hear the minds of the characters. It's just, you see the scene and you only hear what they talk about, what comes out of their mouth. And they're just trying to emulate that too much. You'll notice you won't see thought balloons in modern comics. And that was a great technique of storytelling that comics used to do. But these are almost the same, having these little narrative boxes. So we hear Daredevil speaking over the camera. It all happens quickly. Come on, man, call me back, something. The cops work the crime scene. The robber's declared half dead an hour after he gets to the hospital. It was ruled a homicide. Word spreads, probably leaked by the lesser officers of the NYPD. Daredevil is a murderer. At times like this, it's best to seek counsel. Matt, it's me again. Pick up, man. My counsel is my oldest friend, Foggy Nelson. But he can't help. Oh, he'll think he can. He'll tell me I can turn myself in, prove my innocence, and that they may even let me keep the mask. He's wrong. I know you're avoiding me, but you can't. Foggy. And this was great. I didn't even notice this. I love this panel here because I was reading it, and my eyes, because of the coloring and everything was in the composition of the frame, I was reading, and my eye was drawn to Foggy on the phone and the narration, and then I get to this. And this is where lettering is so important. If the letterer had screwed this up, first of all, notice how this bubble overlays this bubble so that your peripheral vision doesn't immediately see like a separate, what they call a floating bubble, would draw your attention that there's a second person. But these connected, it camouflages it a little bit from your peripheral vision. If you're not looking for it and you're just reading the thing and your eyes down here, so then you go, oh wait, and boom, there's the eyes floating in the dark. Now some people may have noticed this. Obviously people have different levels of awareness, or they just look naturally different directions, but this is how it worked for me, and I think how it's going to work for most people, and that's by design, and that's really good layout and visual storytelling. I also like that they use the radar sense, right? So here, I didn't even think about this. As I'm reading, Daredevil's looking at Foggy. So clearly Daredevil's in the same room, and we see how Foggy appears to him, but I still didn't make the connection until I got down to here. I really like that. Holy, my God, Matt, I'm fine. I came to tell you I'm fine. Thank God. I don't know. I don't know. What happened? That guy, he's dead. It's true. But I didn't do it. I don't kill Foggy. You know that. Someone is setting me up. What do you mean? Look, you've told me about the incidents like this from the past, people who've died. I didn't do it. It was Fisk. It has to be. He's the mayor, pulling some strings, so some guy dies and my hands look dirty. This is him. I know it. I was right about him cheating to win the election, and I'm right about this. Look, buddy, we'll beat this. We'll figure out what happened. There's even a chance we can have them agree to you keeping the mask if we go willingly. You've testified as Daredevil before, so it's not without... There it is. No, I won't do that. So I liked that connection in the narrative there. That Daredevil talks about he knows his friend, he'll do this, and then Foggy actually ends up doing it. And he's like, there it is. And he's like, you got to put the costume away. They're looking for Daredevil, not you. He's like, no, if I disappear, it's guilt. The costume stays on. People need to see it to see me. I'm Daredevil, and I'm innocent. And he hops out the window. And then we go to the hospital, and some doctors are talking and blah, blah, blah. And one of the doctors walking outside. It's like, how could you pull something like this off? You need people on the inside, dirty cops, or doctors with something to hide. What did you do? Leo Carrero, the thief who died under your watch. Dr. Moffat. What are you? Tell me what happened. I told the police everything. He came in with a head injury at the base of his skull. Oh, sorry, wrong voice. He came in at the head injury with the base of his skull. He's terrified. I can smell the sweat erupting from his skin, trying to escape. I can hear his heart pounding. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. But it doesn't skip. Nothing he's saying is a lie. The TC scan showed blood clot, which meant an acute subdermal hematoma. We rushed him to the start of surgery, but it was too late. And then Daredevil just realized, like, oh, I love this. Just let's go. It's like, oh, it hits him. He died on Daredevil's watch. And Daredevil's walking away, and the doctor's like, wait. You did this. That man is dead because of you. If you came here to ascribe blame, it's not going to happen. Sometimes I can't save people. I do my best, but I can fall short. This isn't one of those times. That man was going to die no matter what we did. You know, I've patched up guys you've crossed that have crossed you. All of us here have. If anyone knows how precise you are, how surgical with inflicting violence, it's me. Every one of those people you send to the hospital gets better. I don't know how you manage to know bodies that intimately, but trust me when I say this. You've screwed up. Somebody's dead, and you need to stop with the violence. There are other ways to help. I mean, with your abilities, poof, and Daredevil swings away. You should have been a doctor. And then we get back to Cole. So Cole is the new cop on the scene, new character in the Daredevil mythos. Apparently comes from Chicago, which we all know in real life is the dirtiest city in America by like far. Oh, it's corrupt central. So it's kind of interesting is how this guy is like the honest cop. He's almost like too honest. That's why he hates Daredevil. So he gets paired up and he's talking about Fred's competent, took a bullet a few years ago in the line of duty, but came back like nothing happened. All I care about is he's not dirty. That's what I requested to the captain when I took the job. She just looked at me like I'd spit on the carpet. But she gave me Detective Fred Higgins, and he'll do. So I like this in the inner monologue, getting into his head too. And he's going up and he's going to see Kingpin, and he confronts Kingpin. Now, in the first issue, this guy kind of came across as the villain. Not the villain in the sense that he's a bad person, but he's the enemy of Daredevil. He's the antagonist. But the thing is, he's a good cop. He's honest. He's just following the letter of the law. Daredevil is kind of pushing he's a vigilante. That's not really legal, even though he doesn't kill anyone or anything. But this time, someone died. That was the end of the first issue, and now he's wanted for, at the very least, involuntary manslaughter. At the worst, murder. So, of course, Kingpin is all pleased because he's just like, this is great. Like, I didn't even have to do anything. I just get to sit back and watch everything unravel. But the cop, this guy, I like that Zdarsky doesn't forget that Kingpin is the kingpin of crime. And this guy knows it. He talks about Wilson Fisk, the kingpin of crime, was the one guy of all the good cops dreamed of putting cuffs on, even from where I stood in Chicago. So a lesser writer just would have kind of overlooked that and then been like, he's the mayor. But no, this guy is still like, yeah, I'm not fooled by you. You're a crook. Like, I'm doing the job. You're the mayor, so be it. I don't have, anything on you to arrest you. I'm going to do the job. Daredevil's the one that's wanted right now. But he goes up to see Kingpin and get a measure of him face to face. And it's cool also because the Kingpin instills fear into this guy. And, when you read the first issue, this guy was the big man, the tough guy, calm and collected. And now seeing that dichotomy or that contrast, of the Kingpin, he puts fear down his spine. He's trying to maintain his shit. I was like, that's cool. That tells us how badass the Kingpin is. And it also tells us that this guy is not just some stone cold super guy. He's a real person. He's a really tough cop, but he's got limitations like everyone else. And Zdarsky makes this all super believable. I love that. Chichetto's art in this book is not as good as the last one. Some of the facial expressions are a little, this one. So Kingpin kind of gives him his little smooth talk or whatever, and at the end says some things that I think are going to end up damning him later. And he's like, because you're curious. You wanted to see me for yourself. I mean, you came all the way from Chicago, yes? Like leans in close, whispering into his ear. Leaving behind your life, your friends. Poor Anna. And then, tucks his handcuffs, or his little cuffs in. And if that's everything, gentlemen, I have a city to run. He won't rattle me. I won't let him. But he's right. And so they end up leaving. And little Wesley's like, here, like, what's going on? And and he's like, did you have anything to do with this? And and Kingpin confesses to him. He's like, if I had anything to do with it, I'd be bursting to tell you, but sadly it wasn't me. And it appears that Daredevil has finally done himself in. Daredevil says, I listen for the telltale skip. Remember, we've already established the heartbeat. Zdarsky put that in the story. He doesn't explain. He's not telling you. You already now know. And so a new reader who's just jumping on this comic, if you're not a Daredevil vet, it flows. It makes sense. You understand. The telltale skip. What telltale skip? The one from the doctor. Remember, we already know what's going on. That is solid writing. Without having to hammer it down and it be expository and explain it to us. Daredevil's listening for the skip. It never comes. He's just sitting there, and I love the scene, the birds, and it's just, wow. Then we cut to church. I love Catholic Daredevil. I love the character being a man of faith. I take Foggy's advice, which was to go around as Matt Murdock. Talks to the sister, he's looking for the father, and, he has some counsel with what's her name, Sister Elizabeth, and he says, all I ever wanted to do was help people. She says to him, well then, help people. She's right. So, it's not enough to just be visible as Daredevil. I need to remember why I'm Daredevil. I help people, I save lives, and I'm good at it. This is who I am. It took me a while to bounce back from my injuries, but I did, and I'm careful. I know just the right amount of pressure to apply to this guy's carotid artery. I know exactly where to kick the solar plexus to knock the wind out of this guy without damaging his liver or spleen. I use violence, but also compassion. When I was younger, I made mistakes, but now I would never kill someone. And this is another failing of art here. I can't tell if they're afraid or happy. This woman's yeah, I don't know. But who would believe the man dressed up as a daredevil? So these guys, this is important here because he just saved from muggers, right? And they're just and of course he looks like a daredevil, so they're just all in shock. And he leaves, and he's contemplating his life, and he's talking about who will believe me, well, my fellow heroes. You got Luke Cage, presumably that's Jessica Jones, I'm guessing. But either way, Foggy doesn't believe me, my oldest friend. How am I going to convince anyone? Even the criminals now, and it's Daredevil's contemplating what he's going to do, and then he's investigating a scene, and he doesn't realize he comes face to face with the two cops that are looking for him. The cops from Fisk. I was too distracted by freeze! Don't even think of moving you! Shutting out the smells, the noises. Focus. He hits the one guy with the baton, but the other cop, Cole, who we saw in the beginning, is a boxer, so he knows how to fight. Daredevil kicks him. Now Daredevil's holding back because he's a cop. So he tries to get away, and the cop draws his gun. Bang! 10th and 54th, the suspect known as Daredevil has been shot. Next, the blue and red. And you're just like, damn! Now, the only one caveat or qualm I have about Zdarsky's writing in this book is Daredevil has been shot at so many times. Daredevil's gone against the Punisher. One of the things that Daredevil can do because of his radar sense is he can hear when the gun's about to click. It enables him to virtually dodge bullets. Zdarsky's taking a very grounded, street-level approach to this, making Daredevil extremely realistic. He's not the superhuman character that we come to know. He's just kind of a tough guy in a mask. I still feel like the cop doesn't get Daredevil like that. I was like, what? Really? One shot? They are trying to establish that Cole is a badass cop, but even still, like I said, Punisher, Daredevil goes against people like Bullseye. So I was like, okay. But I'm kind of treating this as a different take on Daredevil. This is Zdarsky's version. It's more like the Netflix, the real grounded, street-level version of Daredevil. Okay, I'm going to forget about that. I'm just going to roll with the story. I wish maybe he would have, I don't know, found a way to make that a little bit, sell it better to me that he gets shot. But be that as it may, that's where we're landing, and you're like, oh crap, where are we going to go from here? And it's a great ending to a comic book. It leaves you hanging the way you should, and we get the next issue with this horrible photoshopped cover. Like, I almost feel like I've seen this picture before. And they just like threw on some filters and it really looks that way. It looks like someone either did that or traced a picture. It does not look like a drawing. It totally, and it wigs me out. It's got that uncanny valley, but that's next issue, not this issue. So this issue is another thumbs up, 4 stars. Cheto's art was a little bit lacking, but otherwise I still like it. He's good. He's a good Daredevil artist. This is a high recommend book. Go check it out. Thank you again, Sergeant Bats, for donating this book, and I will see you guys next time. Stan, thanks for a great character. Forky, thanks for hanging out with us and not being trash. See you guys next time.